a lot of people think that you have to be a nerd, that you have to be a special person to work in IT or in any other job. And the real answer is that you have to be passionate in order to go and research and find new things and find new problems and try to solve them. And it's a very creative process.
Welcome to Startupville, the show where we discuss what it's like to build a tech startup and a startup ecosystem in a small city. I'm Mike Wolsfeld, our host is Dan Gold, and we're having conversations with tech leaders in our community about how they're working through the current global economic crisis and the larger implications on their sectors. Today we're talking with Pablo Listingart, founder and executive director of ComIT, a charity that's helping solve the tech labor gap by teaching the software development and soft skills that are needed by Canada's growing tech sector, at no cost to the student. We talked with Pablo about his journey to start ComIT to help improve access to careers in tech in South America, and how he's grown their programs both in South America and now in 8 Canadian cities. We also talked about how the COVID crisis has impacted the employment market, and how Pablo and ComIT are working to help give more people access to successful careers in tech, where talent is still in high demand. Welcome to Startupville. Startupville is brought to you by Innovation Place and Martin Charlton Communications.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Startupville. Today with me, I'm very honored to have Pablo Listingart with us from ComIT. Pablo, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, and good morning.
So let's start from a very obvious place. Tell me a little bit about ComIT and what ComIT does.
Okay, so basically, Dan, ComIT is a charity under CRA. It's an organization that I founded. I actually had this idea 9 years ago back in South America, where I started the first charity, and then I moved here to Canada over 5 years ago and created the second charity to help people who are unemployed or underemployed and to be trained in IT and to help companies find the IT talent that they need, basically. I've been doing this across 8 cities in Canada, and we help hundreds of people to find jobs and, of course, companies to find the software developer and talent that they need.
So what inspired you to do this? What was the driving factor to make you go, this is something that I need to satisfy the need of?
Okay, so, basically, let's go back many years ago. And when I was back in South America, I have a computer science. I work for big corporations, medium-sized companies, different companies in the country. And at one point, because I come from a public university where we receive education for free, and though we still have to pay for our books and all those kind of things. But at one point, we are shown that there are people who care about our education, about our future, and they help us get that degree. So basically, we kind of grow up with that in mind, with how can we give back to the society in a way. And when I was kind of developing my professional career, you have that choice of always going to develop a website for a charity or develop a mobile application or whatever, try to help in that way. And then I thought that, though I was a teacher at university, but then I quit. I decided to do other stuff. But I like teaching and I like the idea of helping others. Then I decided, why not prepare people to participate, to be part of this industry that we are very lucky to be in, And there are many people that even though university is free or you have public university or whatever, they can't afford to spend 4, 5, 6 years at university paying for the bus, paying for their books. So at one point I saw that there were other issues that needed to be solved before they could even go to get formal education. So at one point we all think that, okay, you can get a loan or get some money and then go to university and then get a job. But for many people, life doesn't work that way. You have to get that first job in order to pay for your studies. So I created these short courses that we kept adapting and modifying. I was a teacher. I was a teacher for 3 years, and I taught hundreds of people to learn how to code and learn everything that they needed to do a trainee or entry-level job back there. And then, well, I decided, you know what, I want to do one course. And if I get someone's a job, then I'm done. I've done my part with the society. So I ran that first pilot when I was a teacher, and then I got 10 graduates and none of them got jobs within 2 months. And I was like, well, you know what, like this feels good. And I liked it. And so I ran another course and I got 14 graduates and 12 got jobs. And so I kept doing it for free for 3 years until I came here to Canada. And suddenly it grew a lot. That's the thing. I mean, when you start doing something from the heart and then you are solving an issue, and this is actually two issues, because you are helping people on jobs and you're helping companies find the talent that they need. And companies don't pay anything to access that talent. So we are not a recruiting firm or anything. It's just like, okay, here you have hundreds of resumes, like just review them, give them a chance, and then maybe you will find the people that you need. And well, it's been 9 years, so I kept doing it.
I have to salute you for this because of this reason. I always wanted to go and work in the theatre. I always wanted to be somewhere in entertainment in some way. You can't imagine that at all, I'm sure. But my parents said to me, whatever you do, before you make that decision, before you go down that path, have a career, have something to fall back on, have a good skill or a good trade. And my father worked in computing in the 1960s, at the time when computers were the size of a building, and my phone here has 600 times the processing power of anything he ever dreamed of. And so I went into IT and then electronic servicing and computer electrical engineering. And I have to say, whether you're on the hardware side or more advantageously on the software side, it's a great career. It's not just a great career because you're doing something that is satisfying. The gratification from it is knowing that there are people out there that you can change how they work, improve how they work, get them thinking in different ways, using technology to lighten the load so that they can then focus on the things that are important. And all that only happens when you are the one there with the core IT skills to be able to help them do that. I did my a part of my IT career, my section of my career, I worked in the medical area. So seeing the day-to-day of the doctors and the nurses doing the jobs that they needed to do, but having the support and the infrastructure of a good IT system was really deeply meaningful for me. And every time that we're out there saluting our frontline workers, I always take a moment to also thank the people who make sure that the infrastructure doesn't crumble behind them. And that's a very important thing. So I'm slightly passionate about this. So you had the experience in teaching, you had the ability for instructional design, you had the students, you basically proved this as a concept before moving to Canada. That step in Canada, I don't know, what was your journey from, I'm going to come straight to Canada, I'm going to roll this out, or did you have to go and do something else first and then roll this out?
Well, it was an internal struggle, to be honest, because I mean, as a newcomer, when you arrive here, you don't have a support net, a support network. You don't have, you don't know anyone. You arrive here, and maybe you know someone that you talked over email or something, and people invite you to dinner to welcome you. But other than that, in order to create a program this big, then you have start building a big network. You have to work a lot with companies for them to be open to receive resumes. You have to work to reach out to organizations for them to reach out to their clients, like immigrant centers or like employment offices. So they are the ones who distribute our information. And when I arrived here, I mean, you try to focus on providing for your family, on settling here, on having a good life. I arrived here with, he was 10 months old, my son. My daughter was born here, but my son was 10 months old. And so you start looking for daycares and for a way of surviving and all those kind of things. So I didn't want to start. I arrived in 2015, early 2015, and then I was talking with my wife several months later, and she was like, "Well, you know what? Like, there are many people like us, and there are many other people who are in a worse situation with no savings or anything, who can benefit from the same thing that you were doing back in South America, and now you have the knowledge and you know how to make it, happen. And even though you don't have any network, even though you don't have anyone, so you can make it happen." And so she was pushing me for over a year and a half. And then she was pregnant with my daughter, and I was like, you know what, I don't know if I can deal with everything, with the pregnancy, with the new kid, with the 1-year-old kid or 2-year-old kid, and with this that I know, because now I know I have the knowledge and everything. I know that this is going to grow way faster than in South America, because what I learned is that here in Canada, if you do things well, if you work from the heart and everything, then things happen, but she pushed me a lot. So I finally went to the company's office here in Manitoba, and I registered a nonprofit, and then I did all the paperwork myself to become a registered charity, which usually people pay to the lawyers, but again, I didn't have any money, anything. I did everything by myself. And then I said, okay, where do I start? And I tried to send emails all across the prairies to different people, but nobody knew me. Again, like I was a newcomer, nobody knew me by then, and so nobody was answering my email. So I did the best I could, which was to reach out to Google Argentina, which was one of our donors back then, and then they introduced me to Google Canada. So some people from Google in Kitchener-Waterloo and in Toronto, they invited me to an event, Go North, back in 2016, I think it was. So I went, I paid for my flight. I traveled to Toronto. I went to this event. And then when I arrived, I thought like, okay, this is going to be like a meetup, 40 people, 50 people. No, there were like 1,500 people. And everyone was looking at me, and they were like you're from the prairies. What are you doing here? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I thought that I was going to come here and talk to some people from Google and find out a way of doing this. And nobody was talking to me. So at one point I was really frustrated. I decided to go back, take my flight back home. But then I said, okay, I'm going to do a final effort. I want to make a final effort. So I saw Steve Woods, guy from over there, from one of the best people that I've met so far. So I talked to Steve. Well, he was actually presenting, so I waited for him to present, to come back, to get off stage. So I said, hey, Mr. Woods, can I work with you? I really want to tell you about something that I've been doing with Google back in South America. And he was like, yeah, why not? I mean, let's go for a walk, 5 minutes. I need to stretch my legs. So I walked with him for 5-10 minutes, and I told him about what we were doing back in South America. And he said, we can use what you're doing here. So I will introduce you to some people at Communitech. And he did. And then Communitech lent me the space. And I paid from my pocket to hire a person in Kitchener, because, of course, I wasn't going to teach 3 months over there in Kitchener. And from there, everything became like easier, because with the success story, people from Communitech introduced me to some people across the prairies. And then I ran the first pilot in Winnipeg. Then I started in Saskatoon, and then it grew and grew and grew. So it was always about finding a way, which wasn't easy, but it was possible. It was knocking on doors for many months until things started happening. That's basically how it was.
there is a core of belief within you that you wanted to see this through because you knew that it worked. You'd proven it with what you'd done back home. There's the persistence, the attitude to stick at it and get it done, even after facing a negative experience of this isn't working, maybe it's not right. The number of times that people go to events and they think that it's going to be one thing and it turns out to be something completely different, and they come away and you ask them, oh, how was it? And they go, yeah, it was okay, but and you gave it that final throw of the dice to be able to give it a chance to not waste effectively the airfare, not to waste the time that you'd spent being there. And I admire you for all of that. I also moved over in 2015, at the beginning of 2015. I came over with a 1 and a 4-year-old, or 3.5-year-old. And I can tell you from my experience, and our experiences, whilst being similar, are not the same, I'm sure. I can say that it's not easy, and trying to establish roots, trying to build a network, trying to, whether there's a sense of fitting in or contributing to society, it's not an easy thing that people need to appreciate. If you choose to move to a country, invariably, it's what you're willing to give to that country to be a part of that society. And I see with what you're doing is a very large part of that. I was very fortunate. I connected with a company whilst I was in the United Kingdom, and I came and I had at least the company as a network already. But to come with, a few connections and make this difference, I salute you, sir. Here's the question. When you look at what you're doing and how you're helping firms get IT support and how you're helping people get into the workplace or to reskill as economies change, COVID-19 is going to have one humdinger of an effect on the employment market. There are going to be a lot of people from maybe the retail space, maybe the leisure and tourism space, who are in that position of going, I don't know what to do, but I need to earn money. Is there a certain aptitude that they need, a certain attitude that they need in your eyes to be able to apply themselves to the course and the program that you're doing to ensure that they have a greater chance of success rather than going, I'm going to do this because I'm going to get money?
Yeah. I think that there is one thing that makes a lot of difference, a big difference, and that's the passion. I mean, how passionate people are into going into IT. So whenever we select people for our courses, we love to see if they have done the research. Like, okay, we ask them, what kind of job opening are you looking for? And you can tell if people are telling you, you know what, like I want to go into software development because I don't know, I love to create new stuff. I love the creativity of the job. So they write because it's an open field for them to write whatever they want. And then you have other people who are telling you, you know what, I'm looking for administrative position or chef or whatever. I'm looking for any job. So you can tell that when people are really passionate about going into something, let's call it IT, let's call it professional, whatever, athlete, whatever, if you are passionate about what you want to do, then you're going to spend as much time as you can. Like when I'm opening your course, there is one slide when I try to make jokes and make it, to break the ice and everything, the first class. So I tell them, okay, so how many of you have kids? And so a few people raise their hands. And I ask them, okay, so when you ask me how much time do you have to invest into this course, do you go back home and you ask your wife, your husband, or whatever, how much time do you have to spend with your kids? Or sport, or do you play video games? Do you go home and ask your friends how much time do you have to spend playing video games? No, I mean, you do it and you spend as much time as you can because you are passionate about this. You are having fun. You are enjoying it. So this is the same. A lot of people think that you have to be a nerd, that you have to be a special person to work in IT or in any other job. And the real answer is that you have to be passionate in order to go and research and find new things and find new problems and try to solve them. And it's a very creative process if you think about it, because you have to be creative to solve issues. And if you do so, your value is much higher than someone who just, write a few letters on your keyboard and that's it. So for me, that's the key to success, to be passionate about what you want to do.
So that I appreciate very much. I think passion and want and desire to do something in a certain field matters, rather than doing it because it's just going to generate income. Sure, we all go through a stage in our lives where you have to do something because you need income. But to get a career rather than a job, you need to believe in it, have that passion. In many countries I've been to historically, you would go and see wait staff in a restaurant and it was just a job. Yet you go to parts of Italy and Spain. I mean, from a European perspective, I'll acknowledge that. But you go to parts of Spain and Italy and particularly France, and the pride in it being a career and something that you can really make something special of. It doesn't matter what the sector is. It's that passion that's really hard to. You can't fake passion. That's something you cannot fake. One of the things I want to ask you about, obviously, face-to-face learning is very difficult at these times. Schools, universities, and colleges are facing this as a challenge now. What to do next? Some are facing criticism that they're not identifying how to deliver programming as an online program or remote or distance learning, and they're not really getting their heads around that. Because we don't know what the steps are going forwards, from your perspective, how do you deliver your programming, and how do you think the education sector needs to adopt the ways of online learning and online testing?
I mean, we have always delivered our courses in person because the impact that you have is way bigger. I mean, you can look at the other person in their eyes and understand if they are following you, if they are completely lost, if they need help. I mean, this is a social work, so you are dealing with people who are anxious to start their career. They need to get that job. Not only they are passionate about it, they really need it. So whenever you're in person, you have that human thing of being able to help the person in need. When you're online, usually the commitment is lower because people just, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Just disconnect, and you will never hear back from me anymore. You will never see me again. And so commitment is usually lower when you're online because the dropout barrier is inexistent. However, the one thing when I was thinking about what should we do, the first courses during the year when we started in person and then moved to online, then we finished the courses, and then I was like, should we wait until this fades off, until this disappears? And then I was at home saying, it's better something than nothing. And there are people who are writing us every single week asking us when the next course is going to be. In Saskatoon, all the time we receive emails every week. Like when we announced the course in Regina, we received no less than 10 messages saying, okay, what about Saskatoon? And I was like, well, we are still running the first one. We are going to let me finish, and then we are going to start, planning everything. And so I decided to start these new online courses until restrictions are lifted so that we can move into a classroom. And that's why when we open a course in Regina, we are not taking people from Saskatoon, because I told them, whenever we are allowed to go to a classroom, we will go to a classroom, and you won't be in the same city. So we are still running our courses per city. And the thing is, we started changing many things. Like I have other people working with me, and I told them, contact people over chat, call them, try to have that human link with them, so that this is not just the teacher talking over whatever tool you decide to use. We need to be closer to the people. And that was probably the key. We have started one course, and usually the first 2 or 3 weeks, many people drop out because it's a big shock. And then people just decide that it's not for them after 3-4 classes. So far, they are hanging in there. So, I've been trying to be more approachable to them in terms of talking with them over Slack, over different tools, so that they know that it's not the same whether they connect or not. It's not the same. Like there is someone who cares if they actually make it or not, and that's a challenge because, well, digital tools, online tools help to be able to communicate, but it's really difficult to get that human touch. So that's probably the main challenge, and it's the same challenge for many companies, for many businesses, because they are used to relating to their clients, and now they can't. It's everything happens by email or by a website or whatever, and you don't have that human interaction, and it gets more difficult, and we are being alienated in some way by the current COVID situation.
Yeah. The distance and isolation certainly doesn't make it particularly easy, but maintaining good, clear channels for communication and I'd imagine listening is a very important thing. On what you do, there's a focus not only on learning the facts and the skills when it comes to the technology side, but you also have an element which is preparing people for the labor market. Why did you decide to go to that next step of going, okay, here's not only the skills for the IT side, but here's the prep for getting you into work? Because that's the other part that I have learned, is that many people think that working in IT is just sitting in front of a computer and coding or working on networking or whatever, and you're on your own. And so many people were actually failing at going to an HR interview. They can't properly talk to recruiters or to other people. It's like, I'm shy, so I won't talk, but I have all the technical skills. And over the years, after hearing hundreds of recruiters from 25 cities that I've run courses on, many of the recruiters, or if not all of them, talk about for entry-level positions and senior positions or wherever, they talk about the cultural fit. They want to know the person. They want to know that they are the right people to be part of their group, of their team, And so if you go to an interview and you're not able to even say a word, or if you're not even able to share something about your life, I want to know, like, if I'm hiring you to be part of my team, I want to know that I'm going to have a good time working with you. I want to know that we're not going to party, but we are going to, talk about what beverages you like, what you did during the weekend, and so people need to be able to do that. And one example that I always give them is that I'm actually a very introvert person, but I've learned how to play this game, and it takes me probably a lot of energy to show that I can actually be at an interview, that I can or that I can talk with others, or that I can manage 50 people in a team or whatever. But I learned how to use my energy to be, at least for a few minutes, something that I'm not naturally, that person. Yeah. It's a fantastic program. People can find out more information at comit.org. That's comit.org. Pablo Listingart, founder and executive director of ComIT. Thank you so much for joining us here on Startupville.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you, Mike, as well. Thank you.
Startupville is brought to you by Innovation Place, helping grow the tech sector in Saskatchewan, Canada, and is produced in partnership with Martin Charlton Communications at WeTellYourStories.ca. The show is produced by me, Mike Woolsfeld, and our host, Dan Gold. Our theme music is from GG Riggs and Reactor Productions. Learn more about us and our guests at innovationplace.com/startupville and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Startupville Pod. See you next time on Startupville.